Welcome everyone to the Blue Abroad channel, our first AFLW show. I'm here tonight with the esteemed colleague Terry. Good evening, Terry. How are you?
I'm great, Shan. I'm great. I am very happy to be a guest and to be on this side of the show tonight.
Very, very glad to have you on board, and thank you very much for the opportunity to be able to actually have this show happen. So, big thank you to you straight off the bat. So, welcome. We're in for a good show tonight. We've got a few topics on hand that we want to discuss around AFLW, a couple that have come to light in the last couple of hours. So let's get this show started.
Vesio with all the experience in the world. She kicks.
And there it is, just on half time. Manny Prasparkas.
We've got a new intro. I love it.
Straight off the bat is like the best start to the show.
Yeah.
First of all, like we want to chat around 2021. We might as well start from the beginning before we dive into 2022. Just a bit of a recap on the season that was.
Well, I think it's important too because so much has happened since it ended. And also, I think just for like education point of view, like there are a lot of people that might just want to dabble in AFLW. And so I think it's a good idea to recap where we've been so we can then understand from like next week onwards where we're going.
That's exactly right. And we didn't finish 2021 the way we would have liked. I think we disappointed ourselves early in the year with a couple of games there that we should have won. And we kind of put ourselves behind the 8 ball pretty quickly from the start of the season and just couldn't catch up. So for those playing at home, we finished outside of the finals race. And unfortunately, it just didn't pan out the way we wanted it. And let us know in the comments if you are an AFLW fan what your thoughts were around the 2021 season.
I remember, Shan, the start of the year because like there's a lot of hype. We had made the granny, recently before last season. It was cut short. We felt like we were probably going to win the flag that year. And I remember thinking to myself two things early in the season because we were losing games and I was wondering, was it the expectation that kind of hurt them a little bit? And then also when you lose a couple of games early in the year, I mean, the reality is it's such a short season. So it just felt like mentally something was off. Like, what was it for you? Why do you think we weren't able to live up to the expectation?
I personally think it came down to, like you said, the high expectation. The girls put too much pressure on themselves early to perform and they were overcommitting. And you could see it from round one. We were all sitting together at Icon Park watching the first game against, I think it was Richmond. Was it Collingwood this year? I think we went back to Collingwood. And you could just see from the moment the ball was bounced, we weren't on. And the subsequent weeks that followed were the exact same. So it's hard to pinpoint where it went wrong. But that expectation heading into this year is probably going to be the same. And it's kind of parallel with the boys, kind of like finals or bust. And that's a bit harsh when you think about it because there's going to be 3 or 4 new teams into 2023. So, yeah, big expectation. And one of my closest friends, Nick, very disappointing 2021 season. But, we'll get into list changes in a moment. We did have some big changes in the off season in terms of players that have departed and that sort of thing. A lot of bad press, I thought, around a couple of our big name departures and the way that the club departed with 2 of our inaugural players, one of those being our captain in Katie Lyons. So definitely not happy with 2021. Happy to put that in the past. Now we can look 2022.
I do want to move on, but I also do want to ask you a few things about 2021.
Sure.
Because my observation was like when you look at the tactically, like we had Taylor Harris playing last year, obviously, and she was, I don't know, was she injured? I remember seeing her heavily strapped in the knee a few times, but there was that part of it. Then there was like when she didn't play, we looked to be a little bit more dynamic because Nick Stevens had a really good year last year. And not many people spoke about it. And then Darcy Vescio obviously also had a really good year as well. Is that something you like? Is that something that happened? Like, did we change the dynamic of how we wanted to play and move forward? Because I felt like the smaller we went and the less traditional we went with a tall forward up front, the better we played.
Yeah, well, if you look at Georgia G is the biggest example of that. Like her run and carry in that forward line and the pressure that she brought kind of just made Taylor a little bit not required, really. There was a couple of times during the year I said that I don't think that she should play. And Josh Lofts, I agree with you. Nick Stevens flew under the radar, and she was also a really, really good forward for us in the end in 2021. But there was a couple of times where I thought Taylor was well out of form, and probably needed a time in the, just to have a rest.
Yeah.
And I don't think we did. And I think Daniel Harford did change the game plan a little bit from 2020 season.
Yep.
And we did go a lot smaller. And you're right. We did perform a little bit better when we went a little bit shorter. Maybe because our shorter players have the legs to run with a lot of players. But not many teams have talls like that. A lot of teams have like the bulkier types or the running types. Like, yeah. And losing Mimi Hill as well was probably, with an ACL early in the season, probably kind of hampered that run and carry that we kind of are known for. And that's why I think Abby McKay really stood up. Takes after her father, doesn't she? Like, she's just one of those little nutty midfielders that goes in hard for the football and wins it on her own. So
yeah, they were the two that I took some time to distinguish. Like, I knew Abby McKay was the father-daughter selection, but for like I needed a couple of weeks to get used to her and Mimi Hill and telling the difference. Like right now it sounds trivial because they clearly look different, but there were players like that. I think even Maddie Gurin, it took a while for me to get to remember her name. I remember the ponytail and like the booming kick and the run and carry off half back. And then I think the other one we missed was Brooke Walker. She didn't play for a big chunk of 2021.
No, and neither did Chloe Dalton, because Chloe Dalton was heading to the Tokyo Olympics in 2021. So I think she kind of took the year off, and now she's obviously one of those departed players heading to the Giants. So there's a lot of our players from 2020 that we'd come to accustomed to and that we knew really well were just not playing for injury or otherwise. Yep. So we kind of had to get used to those names, like Maddie Gurin, who came across from Melbourne, who proved to be a really, really good addition to our list. And that's the kind of thing that we're looking for, is we're trying to find players that are going to be sustainable for longer, because a lot of that draft class of the first season are starting to age and get into that retirement space. And that's where we kind of need the new generation of AFLW players to come through. And that's where I think we're continuously drafting really well.
Yeah. No, those were my, just observations of the year. Because I remember as well, what we were in lockdown, we hadn't been to the footy. So there was like, oh, we're going back to the footy, and the AFLW season for me, like it's a blessing because you get footy back in your life earlier than what it used to be.
Yeah. Definitely. Yeah. And I think we were all really looking forward to the December start date for the AFLW. And unfortunately now that's been pushed into early January, still with no fixture set. So that's another disadvantage, I suppose, because we're all sitting there going, when can we go to the footy again? Because I know for a large chunk of the rest of this year, we missed out on football. So, definitely keen to put 2021 in the past, but looking forward to what 2022 can bring. And that's where we're going to be discussing in this show for the weeks to come.
Absolutely. Well, let's talk a little bit about the changes. Hey, what happened? Oh, well, let's talk about who left. And I want to know what happened, because I don't know how we lost so many of our favorites.
Right. So, firstly, we know Taylor Harris has had departed in the trade period to Melbourne. On the eve of trade period ending, Jess Hosking nominated Richmond and departed. We know Chloe Dalton nominated the Giants. Katie Lyons and Alison Downey were retired. But Katie has since been listed at the Giants, and Jess Edwards was delisted. So they're the list changes out for 2022, with Serena Gibbs being put on the inactive list recently for personal reasons. But I think Katie Lyons was a direct swap for Jessica Delpos. I've known Jessica for a while. We played junior footy together. Probably doesn't remember who I am, but I remember who she is.
Always works like that.
Yeah, so I think the biggest shock for us was Jess, because we're pretty close with Jess and Taylor pretty much in the cheer squad. And the last day of the trade period, Jess decided that she wanted to up and leave. And thanks, Mish. L Downey to the Pies. There you go. I didn't know that one.
Yeah.
But
let's can I want to ask, because Drunkill over here, they said, like, Hosking leaving on the last day with no time for a trade to happen was also very poor. Why didn't she say she wanted to play with Sarah at the Tigers before trade period? My reaction, and I didn't really talk about it much, mostly because, I'm not really educated in what was really going on. It was really the second season where I really watched the AFLW. From the outside looking in, and correct me if I'm wrong, like, was there like a decision? Was there a youth policy? Like, is there something to be worried about? So many of the household names, like, I started to get really attached to the Hosking twins. When Sarah left, I was devastated. Like, I really loved watching her play. And then by extension, that became Jess. Is there something going on? Like, is it something to be worried about? Or is it just, time and looking ahead and having a youth policy?
I don't think it's a youth policy, because I think Jess is still quite young for an AFLW player. I think she's mid to late 20s, and that's still quite young. No, I think it's something to do with what's happening behind closed doors. There might be a dynamic issue with the coach. I think that is ultimately partly why Taylor decided to go. Because when you lose big names like that in a short space of time, like you said, it's quite alarming, and it's something to potentially be worried about. But it was come as a shock to all of us, really. 1 minute she's a listed required player for 2022, and then overnight she decided she wanted to up and leave to Richmond to be with her sister. So it's a question that you'd need to post to Carlton, really.
Yeah.
Because it's one of those ones where you can speculate and you'll never really get the answer unless you speak to the girls directly, and if they're willing to tell you the exact reason why.
I think also, like, for me, like, I mean, when you're supporting a newer club, the first thing you do is you latch onto your heroes and your household names. And, I would hope that now that there is like a newish group with, young, fresh players, that they stick around for 4, 5, 6, 7, up to 10 years. And then you really, you have those memories with those, hopefully they become champions of the club. So I just found it really, really interesting. And I found it really hard to comment on, because I wasn't sure is this just the way it is in AFLW? Is it because it's a newer competition that there's a lot of turnover? But I don't know. I started to get really attached to Taylor Harris. And I thought also, for everything, we as a club have been through with her, and, with the statue and the trolls and everything that we sort of went through with her, I thought it was a real uniting notion. But look, it wasn't to be. We're going to move on, and we're going to be fine with it. It was just interesting to me to see so many names leave.
Yeah, that's it. And there you go. Pretty much sums it up.
Harford as popular with the playing group as he could be. Seems a few of our core group departing all at once. A very interesting dynamic to witness. I mean, I guess it's all the truth always comes out. So if that is an issue, that it's only going to repeat itself, right?
Yeah, and we don't want history repeating, and that's like you mentioned with the youth coming in. We've drafted Annie Lee, Jess Good, Brooke Vickers, Keely Shearer, Imogen Milford, and we've just recently picked up Poppy Shapp, who's replacing Serena Gibbs on the inactive list. And as I mentioned earlier, Jess Del Pos, who brings a wealth of experience playing at the Giants since the first season. So it's not that we've lost a whole bunch of players that have got really good experience, but we are bringing in Jess, who has similar experience, along with a list of really, really good junior girls that have come through the system, the NAB League, and are looking really, really good.
Okay, that is interesting. And we have a like we've just had a draft, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So the draft for AFLW happened back in, I think, August or September. They tend to do it a little bit earlier than obviously the men, because their season starts earlier. So they made their final list changes at the end of August. And yeah, draft night was not long ago. And yeah, we picked up those girls that I mentioned relatively quickly. And from what I've read about them, they're pretty good. Just looking at Annie Lee's profile, she's 170 centimeters, so she's taller than me. Not hard, but yeah, she looks like she's going to be a real good goer. Jess Good, also looking really good. She's I reckon she'll be the good replacement for Elle Downey. And having Sean Hampson at the club now as our ruck coach, another one out of left field, his appointment. But I think he's got a wealth of knowledge playing at Carlton, playing at Richmond, and just knowing and helping these girls with their ruck craft. And hopefully Cruz gets down there as well and gives them a chop out. Because like you mentioned on Monday night, Diesel's down there. We know that Simo's down there all the time as well. So it's good to see that the development of the girls is still there, regardless of who comes in and who goes out.
Yep. Okay. Cool.
Yeah. Well, what our next topic for discussion, I think we were talking about this a bit earlier, and we came as breaking news earlier this evening, was the COVID positive case at the club. They didn't divulge who it was, but they did say it was a member of the group. So it could be a player, and it could be a player, it could be a staff member. But just having a look on the AFLW website at the moment, we've avoided shutting down despite the positive COVID test, which is good. Only one other member of the program has been deemed a close contact at this stage. So that means the girls can continue to train and don't have to isolate. So it looks like they may have caught this early. Because I know every AFL club, every VFL club, they have to do mandatory testing prior to rocking up at training. So they test them before they enter the building.
Every time?
Every time. Rapid testing. And that's how they picked up the Richmond one really early, because her rapid test came back positive and they sent her straight away. So she didn't actually enter the building and come into contact with anyone. So that's good news from a Carlton perspective, that our girls don't need to isolate and they can still go about their business. So that's good, because COVID news is never good.
Well, it's funny because we've just had the news break, in the men's program with it's been reported that it's Liam Jones, and you look at how it's broken, here. I mean, our women are all vaccinated, right? I remember that was the report.
Yes, in Collingwood. This
is the interesting part for me, because, I mean, obviously the person in the program for the AFLW who's tested positive is going to isolate for 14 days, and then their close contact who tested negative will also isolate. But I just wonder, are we going to get, when does this end? Because they're vaccinated, I wonder, when is it, in 12 months time, are we still going to be doing 14-day isolation periods for those that test positive, even though we're vaccinated? I don't know if the league have come out and spoken about this. I don't know. Yeah, I'm just looking ahead. how long does it last for now? Because the main thing about this whole situation was getting people vaccinated. So now that that's happened, especially with the women's program, I'm just mindful because 14 days, 2 weeks, when you talk about, the AFLW season, 2 weeks is a long time. It's a significant chunk of the season. Like, I'm just thinking ahead, touch wood, we get to the season and we get some positive cases throughout the league.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. And I'm my little one's just coming out of 14 days isolation herself tomorrow. So it's a long time. And I think for fully vaccinated, if you're a close contact, it's only 7 days. So that could potentially be not as bad. But you're right. When does this end? Like, when does the need to isolate constantly end if our vaccination rates are at 90%? Do they put the players back into a bubble scenario where they limit their movement throughout the season?
Yeah.
Would that be something they introduce? Because if you're going to continuously get positive cases, it could end up wiping out a whole side for a week.
Absolutely.
If one player tests positive, they all have to isolate for the week. Then what? Then what's the AFL's contingency? Like, do they postpone the game? Then what happens? So you're right. It's going to have to come down to either put them into a bubble or just let it go.
Yeah.
Because in the end, it is what it is. And if we're all vaccinated, we're protecting ourselves and we're protecting each other. So when does it end? It's a conversation not just for the men's, but for the women's, but for the men's as well. Like, do we want to put them back into a bubble like we have for the last 18 months, 2 years?
Yeah, because I mean, we're going to be going to the footy again. Like, wait, we're allowed to say that confidently, right? Like, that's going to happen.
We're going. It's happening.
So by virtue of that, like, we're going back into the community where, lockdowns are over in Victoria, and we're going to be going to the footy. It's more likely than when we were in lockdown that positive cases will come up. I guess it's a big watch this space because, whether it's Carlton or whether it's any of the other AFLW clubs, in the season that's about to start, I'm sure, I'd be shocked if this situation didn't pop up in some way.
Oh, 100%. And just reading Nick's comment, if someone at the club with the flu or gastro, they're sent home to isolate. I think that's fantastic in itself. And I think people in general need to take that advice. If you're not well, stay home.
Yeah, exactly.
Because the only way we're going to avoid this situation, because this person probably could have caught it from someone who they don't even know, who probably shouldn't have been out. So to mitigate it is probably the only thing we can do.
Yeah. Interesting.
It is definitely interesting. Bit of a sideward step and taking a step back. Just wanted to get your thoughts on leadership now that we've lost Katie Lyons as a captain and we only have Kes Harrington now. On your knowledge of our squad, do you think we go for the co-captaincy again, or do you think it'll be better just to have the one with a smaller leadership group around her?
So Karen Harrington is definitely one of my favorites. I love her story. The basketballer, the fan was in the crowd, inspired, gave it a crack. Now she's the captain of her childhood club. But also, like, when she speaks in any form of media, I'm just drawn to her because she takes it so seriously, as she should, as she really, when you can just tell when someone's really passionate about something and really cares. That's my perception of her. And I was a little surprised to see the co-captains last year. I guess Katie Lyons is a great in her own right. And maybe there was a bit of a transition period and like a preparation period for Kez, but I'd be keeping her as sole captain. I think this is what it lends to. I think she's ready for it. I think she plays with the spirit that, fans want from a Carlton player. And I have a couple of early heroes with our women's team, and she's definitely one of them. I'm a big fan.
We love Kez. She's one of the cheer squad favorites, that's for sure. And I personally think that she shows the Guernsey such respect.
Yeah.
And a lot of people across both programs need to take a leaf out of that book. She steps on and crosses that white line every week with the sole purpose to lead that team and that club and show respect to the Guernsey.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that we keep her as the sole captain, and I like the idea of having Nicola Stevens, Maddie Prespakis, and possibly one other in that core leadership group around her, because we want to be looking for our next captain post Kez.
Right.
And I feel that Maddie Prespakis has got a lot of good leadership qualities out on the field, especially in that midfield space. And Nicola Stevens, who came to us from Collingwood, I feel that her best football is yet to come. This season is going to be one of our best. And Darcy Vesio, Bree Moody, two other players that I think, definitely get the older statesmen in that core group around Kez to support her, but keep her as the sole captain, because leadership, they all need to show it, because it's not just down to the one person that needs to show leadership. But she leads that football club better than anybody.
Yeah, I think also, I mean, my perception is that because we had Jess, we had Taylor, like senior names, that's how I identified them. And I felt like, I mean, we'll see this season how it plays out, but I almost felt like there were too many of them, whereas the responsibility, it seems from my point of view, is the responsibility of the leadership has been reduced a little bit to a few less than what it was last year. And with that comes more ownership and more responsibility. And I think, I mean, I hope more than what anything, I'm a Carlton fan, so I'm going to say, it's going to happen. But I'm pretty sure it's going to be better for them, because there's more responsibility, there's more onus, there's more accountability. Like, I even look at someone like a Georgia G as a leader of the club now.
100%. And she's been around for a couple of years now, and she's shown what she can do in leaps and bounds. So it shouldn't be solely on one person. It should definitely fall on the core group, the new core group, because like you said, like there's been so many big names that have come and gone now that it's up to the next generation to come through and be that leadership kind of, and take this club to its first AFLW premiership and 17th premiership technically for the football club. But first question. We have a question. Who do you reckon will be the breakout young AFLW player in 2022? I think Mimi Hill, coming back from her ACL, will be one to watch for me. Just seeing her running already, straight back into it, watching the trainings that the club posts online, you can actually just see the energy that she can bring. And we missed out on the best of Mimi Hill last year. She's an absolute jet. So she's definitely one that I'm looking forward to seeing coming back into 2022. What about you, Tez?
I'm going to go with Maddie Guerin. And the reason is because last year I felt like it was the season after the ACL injury. Also, she's at a new club. I felt like the last few weeks, and even when she went and played a few games in the VFL at the end of after the end of the season, I thought she started getting her confidence. And I really like her attributes. She really stands out for me. She's got that willingness to dash, and then she's got that booming kick. I think at times the kick maybe got her in trouble. She maybe just didn't pick the right option at the time. But I think the confidence and the comfort within herself will be there. And when we're talking about a second preseason after an ACL injury, and I think she's really talented. And she's going to be one for me that I'll be looking out for. And got to give a shout out to Brooke Walker too, because she's probably my favorite player at the moment. I just love her story. And I think if she can give us that run and carry that I've seen her, give us, and also another layer of experience with the sport, I think maybe that's another one.
Yeah.
But yeah, those are the two for me.
That's
I
good.
think
Yeah, no, well, Maddie Guerin played a season in the VFLW as well. So she's coming off that extra bit of running, so that extra bit of training, that extra strength that comes with the VFL level as well. So I definitely agree that she'd be a good one to watch, and I really do hope Maddie Prespakis goes to another level, Rob. I really do, because if she get any better, Maddie Prespakis. I mean,
I think so.
we're seeing her sister Georgie come through at the Cats, and she's been touted as a little bit better than Maddie. I hope I'm wrong, but no, and yeah, Grace Egan's another one that can go to another level in the next year, definitely. She's come on leaps and bounds. I think from her first season to last season, she's just taken that next step, and let's hope she can take a further step.
Yeah. I want to ask about Lucy Mcavoy, because she was a high draft pick. She didn't play too much early on. She started playing, I think she was injured last year, correct me if I'm wrong, but I feel like, yeah. So I feel like, because I remember when she was drafted, we did a bit of a review of the draft with Pom of Lucy McAvoy's draft, and he had big raps for her, and she's obviously got the talent because she was drafted so high. So, like, at what point now does the expectation come onto her? Is it too early? I feel like this is the opportunity now for her to really cement herself in that midfield.
No, I definitely agree with that. She showed patches of class football in 2021. So I definitely believe that this is her opportunity to show everybody in the AFL world why we drafted her so high, and why she was so highly regarded as the next best in the AFL world. So I definitely think that she's one to watch, and that expectation on all of them really is going to be high because of the disappointment of the 2021 season. So definitely.
Okay, cool. There's a few to watch out for. I'm sure as the preseason rolls on and we get more footage and more interviews, and it's so funny because you one little sentence from one little interview can just change your opinion, and you can get sucked into photos. Like, we're very interesting people, us Carlton fans.
We are. Any kind of negative anything, we're sucked in, and we're speculating, and we're throwing things, and we're arguing with each other, and everything's just we're a different breed, the Carlton family, and we what can you say? We love each other, we hate each other, we love our football club, we hate our football club. So.
Yeah, exactly.
No,
exactly. Oh, also, I need to show.
Yes,
I've got my membership in the mail. Here it is.
Oh, fantastic!
Yes, it's my second straight year as a game changer, so pretty happy with that. Yeah,
welcome to the Game Changers, and I'm looking forward to seeing you round one, and in the weeks to come, we'll definitely be unpacking 2022 at a more in-depth level, player by player. So stick around for that. That's going to be a fun couple of weeks leading into Christmas before the season actually starts, and we might actually get to talk about the fixture if we ever receive it.
Well, I hope to get it. So, like, do you have any information as to when we can expect it? Is it just like it'll just drop one day?
No, I reckon working where I don't have a clue. Nothing's been no dropping of anything. But as soon as it does drop, you'll be the first to know. But no, another question from Mish: thoughts on what our forward setup will look like? Well, no Harris, no Serena, no resting Ruck and Al Downey. There is a lot resting on Nicola and Georgia G for that matter. I'd like to see Bree Moody have a bit of a rest down in the forward line in patches. She does need she's got a really good kick on her. She can just pop it on her boot and it just flies. So
who would drop out then? Who would be the option? Like, if she's resting forward, is there anyone else that can play in the ruck?
I think there is, but I just have to try and remember based on who we drafted. If we did draft the ruck, anybody in the comments who can tell me if we did draft a ruckman that could possibly, I think Jess Good might be the one. I think someone mentioned her before, but I think even Grace Egan could potentially step up into that forward space. But you'd want to kind of cement your Darcy Bessios, your Nicola Stevens, and your Georgia G's as your three main forwards.
Yep.
With people coming in and out, rotating through. But yeah, no, losing Serena Gibbs is definitely one of the big ones, considering we've lost Taylor Harris as well, because Serena Gibbs was highly regarded as a really good forward and a really good player as well. So yeah, no, it's going to be an interesting forward setup, that's for sure. But if Darcy Vesio can have a season like she did and win the goal kicking again, we're in for a ripper season in terms of kicking goals, that's for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm expecting the forward line to be a lot more dynamic. And I don't know if there will be as much pressure put on them by them for this season. I guess with the sport and with the league, you just got to get wins on the board early. You can't afford to lose confidence too early. Yeah,
no. This is another good question here. Brooke Vernon, I reckon she could. You can only try. She's another player that I think didn't get much of a crack in 2021. So I definitely think we can push her into the forward line and give her a crack. I mean, you can test players. That's what the whole idea is. If you know it's not going to work, then you change it. We want Daniel Harford to not be David Teague and make a change.
Don't go there.
No, I definitely agree. I definitely agree with that. We can try. We can only try. Brooke. Yeah. Demons. This is another good one. I know they were waiting on WA in regards to the fixturing. Probably why we don't have it. Thank you, Nat, for pointing that out, because obviously with the fact that we can't get into WA at the moment until January when they hit their vaccination targets, it's going to be an interesting one in terms of the travel bubbles for the girls, whether they bring the WA teams to hub in South Australia or if they hub them in Victoria in that interim period before we're allowed into WA. That'd be another topic for discussion once the fixture is released. So
yeah.
I've
just realised we've gone 38 minutes and I have not mentioned Charlotte Wilson once, and it's a shame. It's a real damn shame, and I've muffed it.
The floor is yours, Tez.
I want to know what you think about her, because she was one of the few that really stood out to me when I first started watching the girls play. And I guess when you're learning about players, you kind of relate them and draw links to the men who you've grown up watching. So she reminds me of Jacob Wiedering.
She does.
In the way that she plays. She's got that cool, calm, collected energy about her, intercept mark, strong, really strong through the hips, really powerful. And I felt like she had a really good season 2 seasons ago, and then probably didn't play as well as what she did 2 seasons ago in the season that just passed. And that's probably just due to the fact that she set such lofty standards for herself. And so I'm looking at her as well to bounce back. And I wanted to know where you think, like, where's she at? What's her story?
Well, as Nick's clearly pointed out here, she's only 20.
Wow.
So that's huge
crazy
in itself. That's crazy to think. Yeah, and she, comfortably one of the best 5 defenders. Yeah. I don't disagree with that at all. And I think that she is another one that can go to another level this year. I love the way she goes about her football. And you're right, she does give off the Jacob Wiedering vibe. Her intercept marking, I think the courage comes a little bit from Simo, the way Simo used to throw himself into the contest to mark the football as well. And I think that kind of rubs off with him being down at the club as well. I think with his guidance and the way that he coaches the girls in the defence, I think that she has a little bit of Simo in there as well. So this is why I love having the boys down at the club
Yeah.
and the whole merging of the two. And like, I guarantee you will see shades of Diesel in Maddie's game in 2022.
Yeah.
Without a doubt. Like watching that video from Monday night with you and Pom, that was incredible. Like that was just seeing Diesel down there. So I think the more the senior men get involved, especially past players, you'll see it come out in the girls a little bit as well, because we tend to, as footballers, we tend to mold our games based on advice and the way we're taught. So we're a little bit different in comparison to how the boys are. We soak it in and we adapt, and you see shades of other players in our games, and it's definitely something to look forward to, especially with Charlotte. She can only go up and only get better. At the age of 20, she's still got at least 10 years left in her at AFL level.
Yeah,
So,
absolutely. Absolutely.
not going to let her go for anything.
No. I over here, eventually, I will have her Guernsey signed as well. I think I have to wait until the end of the season. Corey's just came last week. So eventually we'll have Charlotte's here and then we'll have Corey's here. So I'm looking forward to it. I haven't met her yet. I'm excited to meet her. Like, she's 20 and I'm going to be starstruck.
I still get starstruck every time I see Darcy Vesio. Don't you worry.
Yeah. I you know what? I actually often see her around the Thornbury area.
Yeah.
I'm there. My parents' cafe is there. And one time I saw her there and I was like, this is so cool. Darcy Vesio is at like my family cafe.
How's that for a backline for you?
I know, right? Wow. Yeah. Yeah, we're set there. We're absolutely set there, right?
Yeah.
So where is the big area for growth? Because that, for me, that back six, that's as good as you get in the league.
I think from what we lost, our forward line's the biggest area for growth.
Okay.
If you look at each line individually, and we will in the coming weeks, we'll break it down, and we could do it in that kind of format. We could look at our forwards, we can look at our mids, and we can look at our defenders. And I feel that the biggest area for growth is that forward line, because we've lost Jess, who would float into the forward line. We've lost Taylor. We've lost Serena, like we mentioned earlier. So I feel like, that's probably the biggest area for growth in terms of this season.
Yep.
And possibly potentially a little bit in the midfield as well. But that back six is as solid as any back six in the AFL. When you put in comparison to every other AFLW team, I can't imagine there'd be many goals scored against that back six.
Mm-hmm. Okay, interesting.
Yeah, and Nick, mids. So yeah, as I said, mids to an extent, definitely. I hope with Mimi Hill coming back and Abby McKay hitting her straps, we won't have too much of an issue getting Maddie that help that she needs, because we can't have her just going in for the football every week, because hurting herself or getting herself silly suspended like she did in 2021.
I know that we can't afford to lose games, especially to players like Maddie, but there's just something about the biffo and getting into a bit of a scrap that I think Diesel would love that too. I mean, she already does show signs of Diesel. She can get the ball as good, if not better, than anyone in the league. She's tough. She takes no shit. I know Collingwood have done a number on us a few times and they target her. So yeah, I think as Nick said here, she needs somebody else there, maybe like another enforcer who can just fly the flag for her, because she has such high expectations of herself and she plays to a really high standard. So
and you can tell when she's frustrated, you can see it come out in her game. It's probably one area that she needs to work on, is how she channels that aggression. Because obviously it saw her get suspended for the sling tackle earlier in the season, and it's probably something that needs to be taught from a young age, really, from the beginning, is in terms of safe tackling, not just in the girls' space, but in the boys' space, because you've seen so many times AFL men's players getting suspended for that sling tackle. So it comes back to education. And I think Diesel will help Maddie channel that in a better way. Even though he was suspended so many times, you'd think he'd learnt from those, and he'd be able to show her and the rest of the group to channel that aggression in a safe way, so they don't get hurt, the opposition doesn't get hurt, and it's a fair tackle, fair game, whatever it may be.
Yeah.
So definitely some really exciting things to come. Mm-hmm. And in the next couple of weeks, we'll start digging a bit further into those. But I just want to thank you for coming on with me tonight, Terry.
No worries.
It's been an absolute pleasure and an absolute privilege to be able to have this show. We're pretty much in the infancy of this show, so please bear with us while we're gaining our wings or our feet. I want to thank you all for watching. It's been great to see so many people jumping on for our first show. All the comments, keep them coming in the coming weeks, and we definitely look forward to seeing where this show can take us.
100%. We're just out here having a crack, Shan. That's what it's all about. And I think the timing was perfect. We needed an AFLW show, and hopefully we'll see what we can do. But hopefully we can get some players on board, and even like the coaches as well. I think if we're going to build the league, we need to have that collaborative spirit, which is something I feel a lot more. I mean, I feel a lot more connected when I go to watch the women than I do the men. The women they still have that community feel to the actual day. So I'm just excited for you. This is going to be a great project for you, and good things to come.
No, thank you. Thank you once again, everybody. We'll see you all same time next week, 8:00 Wednesday nights on Blue Abroad. Have a great night. Thanks everyone for watching.
See ya.